Vera was anxious. She had been waiting for Craig for 2 hours. She peeked through the window of the motel room again and wished he was here already. Time was running out. His suitcase and hers were ready by the door. Where was he? An SUV pulled up in the parking lot and two men came out and walked to the reception, then came out after a few minutes and started walking towards her room door. Vera panicked as the men reached her door and began to knock. She looked around frantically, searching for anything she could use as a weapon.
Craig and Ashley had been together for 3 years. Their relationship was stable, but it lacked the spark it once had. Craig, a financial analyst, had been so consumed with work that their dates had become routine. Ashley, a fashion designer, was equally busy, but she always made time for their relationship, trying to keep the romance alive. One Friday evening, after a particularly hectic week, Ashley suggested they try a new Italian restaurant that had just opened in town. Craig, eager to please, agreed, though he wasn't particularly excited. He hoped the night would bring them closer again, though deep down, he feared they were slowly drifting apart.
They arrived at Palazzo del Cibo, a cozy restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. The warm, ambient lighting and the faint sound of a violin playing in the background created a romantic atmosphere. As they sat down, Ashley reached for Craig's hand across the table, trying to connect with him. Craig smiled, but his mind was elsewhere, distracted by the stresses of work and the monotony of their relationship.
Then, she walked in.
Vera, the waitress, approached their table with a bright, genuine smile. She had an easy charm about her, a warmth that immediately captivated Craig. Her auburn hair was tied back in a loose bun, with a few strands playfully escaping. Her hazel eyes sparkled with kindness as she handed them the menus and made a light joke about the day's special, which made both Craig and Ashley laugh. As the evening progressed, Craig found himself increasingly drawn to Vera. Every time she came to their table, he noticed something new, a dimple in her cheek when she smiled, the way her voice lifted when she spoke, her infectious enthusiasm for life. He tried to push the thoughts away, reminding himself that he was here with Ashley, the woman he'd been with for years. But the more he tried to resist, the more he found himself falling for the waitress. Ashley noticed the change in Craig. She could see the way his eyes lit up whenever Vera approached. It hurt her, but she couldn't deny the truth. Craig's attention had shifted. Their conversation became stilted, with long pauses and forced smiles. By the time dessert arrived, Ashley knew something had changed between them, something she couldn't ignore. After dinner, as they walked to the car, Ashley finally spoke. "Craig, I think we need to talk." Craig knew what was coming, and he didn't have the heart to deny it. They sat in the car, and he confessed how he felt. He didn't want to hurt her, but he couldn't ignore the connection he felt with Vera. Ashley was heartbroken. She couldn't believe what was happening. She admitted that she had felt the distance growing between them for a while now, but she was not ready to end their relationship. She was going to fight for their love. In the weeks that followed, Craig couldn't stop thinking about Vera. He returned to Palazzo del Cibo, not sure what he was hoping for. He just knew he needed to see her again. When he walked in, Vera recognized him immediately. They exchanged awkward smiles, and he nervously asked if she had time for a coffee after her shift. That evening, over coffee, Craig and Vera talked for hours. They discovered they shared a love for travel, a passion for books, and a similar sense of humor. The connection Craig had felt that night in the restaurant only deepened as he got to know her better. Vera, too, had been drawn to Craig from the moment she saw him, but she had respected the fact that he was there with someone else. As they continued to see each other, Craig realized that what he had with Vera was something special, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It was more than just physical attraction, it was a meeting of minds and souls. With Vera, he felt alive again, excited about the future and the possibilities it held. Ashley sat in her dimly lit apartment, the glow of her laptop screen illuminating her face. It had been 3 months since Craig had left her, but the wound was still fresh. She had tried several times to get back with Craig, but he didn't even give her a listening ear. She had cried and begged, but he seemed so in love with Vera that it looked as if he now despised her. Every night, she scrolled through social media, watching Craig and Vera flaunt their new relationship. The images of them laughing, holding hands, and kissing fueled a deep, festering rage within her. She had tried to move on, but every attempt was futile. Craig was her life, her world. She had given him everything, and now he was gone, happy with someone else. The pain was unbearable, but amidst the heartbreak, a dark thought took root in her mind. If she couldn't have him, no one could. Ashley began to follow Vera online, tracking her every move. She memorized her routines, her favorite coffee shops, and the gym she frequented. Soon, she found herself standing outside these places, watching from a distance as Vera went about her life, completely unaware of the eyes that watched her. One night, after a few too many drinks, Ashley decided to confront Craig. She showed up at his apartment, pleading with him to take her back. Craig, shocked and angry, told her to leave. "I love Vera now, Ashley. You need to move on," he said coldly, shutting the door in her face. The rejection was the final blow. Ashley's obsession grew darker, more twisted. She started leaving anonymous messages for Vera, designed to shake her confidence and make her question her relationship with Craig. "He's still in love with me," one message read. "You'll never be enough for him," said another. Vera, once vibrant and full of life, began to change. She became paranoid, distant, and started to doubt Craig's love for her. Their relationship began to strain under the weight of Ashley's manipulations. But Ashley wasn't satisfied. She wanted Craig to suffer as she had suffered. She began following him, too. At first, it was just to see his reaction to Vera's growing anxiety, but soon it escalated. She started breaking into his apartment when he wasn't home, moving things around, leaving small traces of her presence, a strand of hair on his pillow, a familiar scent in the air. She wanted him to feel haunted, to know that she was always there, just out of sight. Craig began to notice the changes. He couldn't explain the unease that settled over him whenever he was alone, the sense that he was being watched. Vera's constant accusations and fears only added to his stress. He started losing sleep, his work suffered, and his once happy relationship with Vera was falling apart. One evening, sitting on the balcony of Vera's small apartment, Craig finally voiced the plan that had been brewing in his mind. "We have to leave," he said quietly, his voice heavy with resolve. "I can't keep living like this, and I won't let her hurt you." Vera didn't flinch. She had been expecting this. "Where do we go?" she asked, her hazel eyes meeting his, calm but resolute. "Far away," Craig replied, "someplace where she can't reach us." "I've been thinking, what about Beanver? It's a big city. We could start fresh there. New jobs, new lives." Vera nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "It sounds perfect." The next few days were spent in secrecy. Craig quietly sold off some of his belongings, things too large or sentimental to take with them. He disconnected his phone and set up a new number. Vera quit her job under the guise of moving to help her sick mother. They booked their tickets under different names, buying a one-way trip to Beanver. They knew Ashley wasn't one to let go easily, and she had resources, friends who could track people down, even across state lines. But Craig was determined. He had meticulously planned their departure, making sure there were no loose ends, no clues for her to follow. They were to meet at the motel and take off from there together. As Craig was about to leave his almost empty apartment to meet Vera at the motel, he heard the sound of footsteps. His heart raced as he listened, frozen in his step. The footsteps stopped outside his bedroom door. Silence followed, heavy and oppressive. Then, the door slowly creaked open. Ashley stood in the doorway, her face shadowed in the dim light. "Why did you leave me, Craig?" she whispered, her voice tinged with madness. Craig, terrified, reached for his phone, but Ashley was faster. She lunged at him, knocking the phone from his hand. "You don't need her, Craig. We were perfect together," she hissed, her eyes wild. Craig tried to reason with her, to calm her down, but it was no use. The Ashley he had known was gone, replaced by a woman consumed by obsession and revenge. In a moment of clarity, he realized that he had underestimated her, that the sweet, loving girlfriend he had left had turned into something far more dangerous. As he tried to run out of the apartment, Ashley shot his thigh and he screamed in pain. Immediately after the shot, police sirens were heard outside. Craig's neighbor had heard the commotion and called the police. Craig was taken to the hospital while Ashley was arrested and charged with stalking, breaking and entering an attempted murder. The two men knocked on Vera's door and announced that they were police officers, and Vera opened the door. They told her what had happened to Craig and took her to the hospital to see him. As Ashley sat in her cell, she felt no remorse. Craig might have won this battle, but she knew she would always be with him, in his nightmares, in the shadows of his mind. He would never forget her, and that was enough. As time passed, the scars Ashley had left began to heal. Craig and Vera built a life filled with love and trust, far from the chaos of the past. And though the fear of Ashley's return would always linger, they were determined to live their lives on their terms, free from the shadows of vengeance.